Yes, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Chopping It Up with Chance. And I'm bringing back something that I've got a lot of fondness for in my heart. But before we get into it, don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, don't forget to subscribe and all of them ting there. But FPL's back, another season of Fantasy Premier League, and who better than the man himself to run you through my picks, my predictions, and who I think are going to be some sleeper picks. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just go position by position. I'm going to run through the players that I've picked, why I've picked them, and then at the end we'll go into a couple of sleeper picks. Maybe not too sleeper, but you know, I'll definitely give you some good options if you don't like the ones that I've given you. So, my two goalkeepers, I'm going to be going with Kelleher, and he's just made his move off to Brentford. Obviously, they've got Nottingham Forest. Say obviously, like I didn't just check, but they've got Nottingham Forest first game of the season. Obviously, Forest did look fantastic last year. I felt like a little bit of a wobble towards the end, but I feel like, you know, Kelleher's a great keeper. He made it into that Liverpool side when called upon him, and I thought he made some big saves. And I just think he's going to do well for this Brentford side. I really do. I think he's going to really make his name this season, and we're not going to see too much out from him. Georgi Petrovic is my next shout. He's actually on the bench for me at the minute, which is what I was just double checking, because you know, playing at Bournemouth and having Liverpool in the first game of the season away, it's a tough ask. You know, I don't expect much from him, but long term, I think Georgi Petrovic is a fantastic goalkeeper. Now, I think he's going to do wonders at Bournemouth personally, and I can see him picking up quite a few clean sheets. I think Bournemouth were a team that surprised a lot of people last season with how well they played, and I think that he's a fantastic addition into that fold. You know, I think he's probably the best goalkeeper they've had in a minute. I think he's clear of Kepa personally, who somehow made that move to Arsenal. So, yeah, happy for him, and I think that he's going to pick up a lot of points in the FPL this season. Defenders. This is a very interesting one, and we might spend quite a bit of time talking about this. But defenders have changed a lot this season. You don't just get points for clean sheets and goal scoring, but actually making challenges and clearances and off-the-line style stuff. You know, like the things that defenders get credited for in real time is going to be credited with points. Now, I haven't given myself the biggest deep dive into how that's working, because to be honest, I think we've still got plenty of time left. You know, the transfer window's still open, season's still a few weeks away. I think a lot can change, and I think that I need to definitely scrub into that. But I've gone with that sort of classic FPL tactic of just taking a bunch of fullbacks who get attacking contributions and will also get those points for clean sheets. So how can I not start with Jeremy Frimpong? I think that Jeremy Frimpong is going to be a fantastic player for Liverpool, and it frustrates me to say that. You know, I think that he's going to slot into that right back position fantastically, particularly with the formation that Liverpool play at. I've seen a little bit of their sort of pre-season antics, and the brightest spark seems to be Jeremy Frimpong. So I will take that going into the new season. I can't imagine he plays any less than 35 games as well. And for the amount of clean sheets that Liverpool pick up, particularly with you know, Alisson and Van Dijk, I think Frimpong's going to get a lot of those credits, but also be able to put his name on the score sheet. And if not, with the assists, you know, those crosses over the top, those deadly through balls that we've seen from him at Leverkusen, if you were tapped in the last couple of seasons. I think he will transition really well into the Premier League, and once again, it worries me, but if I can make an advantage of it, I will, and I will slap him in my FPL. I've then gone with Reece James and Cucurella. Now, call me blind, call the Chelsea bias out, I don't care. I think the pair of them are world class, and I think Chelsea are ready for a fantastic season. What are Chelsea known for? Defending. We're a defensive team primarily, and maybe the structure of that has changed under Enzo Maresca's new, more sort of aggressive system, converting that three at the back that 4 into a 3 at the back, with the fullbacks being a little bit more maraudery. But when I look at the best game I've seen us play in a while, which is that PSG final where we absolutely besotted them. I gotta stop using that word, but we absolutely sliced and diced them in the first half. I think that they're two of the most important players on the pitch, particularly with Reece James playing as a midfielder. If I could take a midfielder with defensive points, I will do that. Defenders cost less than midfielders because they're expected to get less points across the board, and I will take that from Reece James. And even if he does just play right back all season, his work rate, his free kick ability, is that getting up, that maraudering style, as I've said, it's fantastic. And it will do nothing other than put points on the board. In Cucurella, you'd be silly to need an explanation for why Cucurella's in my team. He's absolutely fantastic on his day. He's the reason why it turns from a 4 to a 3, the way he just guns up that pitch down that left flank. And I think he can do the exact same thing again. Next, we're going to be going with Ola Aina. I think he's a fantastic budget option. You know, a lot of people know his source at this point, but I think that he'll do amazing. I think he did really well last season. Once again, another budget option up. Probably be the 4th out of 5 for me personally, if not against the other player that I've got on my reserves for my defence. But yeah, you know, there's just something about that full-back aggressive style, getting the assists on the board, getting a goal every now and then that I really appreciate. And Wan-Bissaka, he's more of the week 1 pick. You know, I feel like I always make a week 1 pick, someone who's I think is going to perform well. And first game of the season, West Ham have got Sunderland. I think West Ham should be worried about the season coming up. So he's the only West Ham player I've got on there. Just had to quickly double check that before I waffled and got caught out. But yeah, no, he's the only West Ham player I've got on there, and for good reason. You know, they got Sunderland first game of the season. I think they're going to take a minute to get accustomed. I actually peg them to stay up personally. I think that they're a good enough side, but it will just take a minute for those things to click. And where they might look at West Ham as a game where we can go out and win this, I think West Ham will be looking at them with a bit more teeth showing, and then just be thinking, this is the one we've got to go in for the kill with, really. Which leads me into my midfield. We'll be starting with someone that I don't know how they've been called a midfielder, Mohamed Salah. I think that if you've got the choice to take Mohamed Salah, you do it. For me, it's between him and Haaland. And I don't think it's a question of who I was more impressed with last season. But do I think Salah can still do it this late into his career? Yes, I do. I think that he's shown that and defied the odds multiple times. If I can take someone in the conversation with the greatest Premier League player of all time for less than 15 million in my FPL, I will do that and I'll captain him. And it will frustrate me. But similarly with Jeremy Frimpong, my frustration should not affect their success, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen, is face an awful lot of success. The next 4 midfielders, we've got Morgan Rogers. It's just another one where I just see him as a left winger, you know, as a sort of secondary striker, if you will, in that Villa team, and particularly this season, I think he's going to show his own. I really do. I think he's going to come back in and bag more goals than he has in any other Premier League campaign. I will skip through the next couple because I want to get to the attackers big time. But we're going to go with Amadou Onana. I think he's another baller as well. I think he's finally finding his rhythm, particularly at the back end of last season. I think the beginning of this one's going to be a big deal for him. I think that he's going to really make his case if he hasn't already. I think, you know, he's on the bench for the first week. I've just got the 2 midfielders playing a 5-2-3. Don't let me be a manager. But yeah, I think that he can definitely get some points across the board. I think he's a fantastic option. I'm also going to go with Baleba. He may not get the most points, but I think there's a spectacular baller in there, and he can shoot from range. And he's just the type of player that I just think is a great value option. Now, my favourite value option probably on the team. I'm probably the only person I've seen pick this player, but I like him. I've met him in real life, but that doesn't affect anything. I like Denyard Gnotto, and I think that he's been a great player for Leeds. You know, last season in the Championship, I think that he's a big reason why they came back up. You know, it might not necessarily be the numbers, but that performances that you put in, week out. You can ask any Leeds fan who their favourite players are, and if he's not in the top 3, they're not sitting at Ellen Road. You know, he's always busting along. He's always trying. You know, £25 million links here and there, £30 million links here and there. You don't get that with players from Leeds outside of the Somervilles who really, really stand out. So I'm going to go with Denyard Gnotto. He's only like 4.5, 5 million or something. Pennies. Chump change. He was always going to be on my side personally. Now, the 3 that I want to talk about. It frustrates me to say this, but I'm going with Victor Gyökeres, Isak, and Joao Pedro. Could there be 3 better strikers in the Premier League not called Erling Haaland? I doubt it. Where people do question Gyökeres and his ability to do it in the Premier League and talk about how many goals he scored against teams in the top half last season, I couldn't care less. I think he was wonderful at Coventry. I think that he's shown that he can do it in England, in a physical league, where he can use his strength and his size, and I think we've seen that from him. Isak, I'm kind of jumping the gun a bit because he might actually not play for Newcastle by the end of the window, but I reckon he will personally, and with the way Newcastle have been playing and the way they've been talking, I think he's going to just continue to do big things. Joao Pedro, needless to talk about. I think he's an absolute sensational baller. I don't think there's much to do about Joao Pedro other than I think that he's going to be that 25 goal a season striker Chelsea have been missing to really contend. Other players who I think will do well on FPL this season, you got your Cole Palmers, you got your Florian Wirtz. But once again, as I was saying earlier, I think that centre-backs who keep clean sheets and who get clearances and do the last-ditch challenges will do really well. I think that Virgil van Dijk is going to put up points on the board. I think he's a shit centre-back, but he bails his team out left and right. I think Mickey van der Ven could do all right this season, personally. The amount of times that Tottenham get exposed and spliced open and he's had to be the last man back, I reckon, as much as they concede, I reckon he could make those points back. You've also got, your Kudus, your Anderson, these players who are a bit more on the budget bang for buck type options. But you know who I'm going for with my team, with my, 14 players? 15 players. You know my 15 players. And there might be some adjustments and we'll get to that later in the year, later in the weeks, later in this month. But till then, you know who it's been. It's been Charms. And I've chopped it up with you lot, talking everything FPL. Up the Chelsea. Charming Blues. That's the name of my FPL team. We will get a 2 Blues FPL leaderboard. And when that is the case, we'll be announcing on the Instagram. So keep your eyes peeled. God bless. And I will see you at the top of the leaderboard. Get it.